This is one of my favorite shirts, but it is in desperate need of a makeover. I don't like the tight sleeves around my elbow, and I really want the sleeves out. So what we're going to do is I'm going to remove the sleeve in the band. And you saw my previous video. I'm going to add splits in the sides. So let's see, can we give this top a new look? I'm going to start by removing the sleeve. I'm going to use my razor. Now I've removed the sleeves, and there's our opening. As you saw in one of my 60-second sewing secrets videos where I took the shirt and added a split. So we're going to do that now, and we're going to take the rest of the fabric from the sleeve here, and we're going to add a facing to our armhole. To do our facing on the armhole is I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to split down the sleeve. To give us more fabric, I'm going to cut the cuff off of the sleeve. By doing that, that opens up the sleeve and it gives us more fabric to play around with. So I'm just going to take this and I'm just going to cut off the seam allowance. Now, when you're doing the armhole, you kind of want the stretch of the fabric, so I'm going to cut it across the grain line. I'm just going to cut. So I'm going to cut 1.25 inches. And I'm going to cut another layer of the 1.25 inches because this is not going to be wide enough. So by adding or laying this on top, I'm going to cut another strip. And I'm going to repeat the same thing for the other sleeve. I've got both of my strips cut from both of the sleeves, or both sets of my strips. And these are the strips that we're going to use to finish off the armhole. And this is the same technique that I used in one of my Freestyle Friday videos. I believe it was the one where we did the t-shirt quilt. It's the same technique that we're going to use here to finish off the armhole. Is I join my bias strips together, and I'm just going to finger press them. And now what we're going to do is we're going to finish off the armhole of our top. I'm going to bring my fabric, here's our seam, the underarm seam. I'm going to bring it over, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sew a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around, and I'm going to stop when I get back to here. I'm almost back where I started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take where I started, this piece here, and I'm going to fold it back so that I get a nice little fold edge right here. And then I'm going to take this when I sew it and I'm going to put it on top of that. So let me let you see what I'm doing. See, I'm sewing it. And now I'm sewing on top of the folded area. And I'm going to stop. And then what I'm going to do, I want you to see what I did. This was where we started, our starting point. And I took it and I folded it in and put this on top. So that way when I fold it over, it still looks, you know, nice and finished. So we've got too much of our facing, so I'm going to cut. So now what I've done is I took my facing because it was a little bit too wide. So I cut off about a 1/2 inch of my facing. So what we're going to do now is you're going to take the facing, we're going to turn it in so that the facing, edge of the facing hits up with the seam. So when you do it like that, see the seam right there? There's the seam. And there's our facing. So when you turn it in, the whole thing goes inside, and when you flip on the other side, it's all clean. So what you want to do is I'm going to pin that in place all the way around. Well, I've turned on my facing on the inside, as you can see, and I pinned it in place. I've done the same thing on the other side. So what we're going to do now is you're just going to top stitch that around. I'm going to remove my case. I'm going to put the armhole on. And we're just going to do a simple top stitch all the way around. So by top stitching this and the facing, it's like a dual finishing. It's going to give a nice finished edge to the armhole, and it's also going to give a nice decorative stitch on top of the armhole. Well, I finished stitching the armhole, and as you see, it's got a nice finished edge. And what we're going to do, let's put it back on the mannequin and let's see the difference that we get now that we removed the sleeve. Now our top is done. As you see, we've removed the sleeves. Turned out rather nicely. We added splits on the side. So now our top is ready. Before, we had the sleeve in this top, and it had a cuff on the end of the sleeve. Done. No more cuff. Now the top is hot flash ready. So I hope that you'll try this project. I had fun with it, and I hope you will too. Happy sewing!